It was a world of magic under a theater of canvas. For nearly 100 years, the Willard the Wizard show toured the southern United States with one of the largest magic shows the world has ever seen. But the Willard story began far away from the grassy lots of Texas and Louisiana when James Maroney Willard was born in New York City in 1860. Inspired by tales of John Henry Anderson, the Great Wizard of the North, James became Willard the Wizard around 1875, and by 1880 was touring with a dramatic stock company through the wilds of California. It was there that James met Lucy May Kiefer, the daughter of a wealthy rancher. The two fell in love and were married, traveling the country with an act featuring the Spirit Cabinet. A daughter, Edith, was born in 1882, followed by a son, Robert, in 1885. Then on December 12, 1895, Harry Francis Willard was born. The last Willard's son, Tommy, was born in 1903. It was around this time that James Willard decided to move his show into his own tent theater and concentrate his performing to the southern part of the country, particularly Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. The tent eventually grew to accommodate over 2,000 spectators, and the Willard show was hailed wherever it appeared as one of the finest magic shows in the world. Following the tragic death of Robert Willard in 1914, James began grooming Harry to take over the Willard show. Harry struck out on his own for several years, performing in the sideshow with the Molly Bailey and Christie Brothers circuses. But by 1920, Harry Willard had returned to his family and was now performing as Willard the Wizard. In 1921, Harry married Lottie Katzmark, who became featured assistant on the show. Lottie gave birth to a son, Howard, in 1923, and a daughter, Rosemary, in 1925. But tragedy struck when Lottie Willard died suddenly of tuberculosis in December of 1927 at age 21. Harry Willard was left to raise his two young children and keep the Mammoth show on the road. In 1928, Harry met a young dancer, S.E.J., who was known as Joy, who became an assistant on the show, and in 1929, Mrs. Harry Willard. Joy brought a new style and energy to the show. In 1930, Joy gave birth to a son, Eugene, just as the country was becoming mired in the depths of the Great Depression. The Willard show carried on and actually prospered during the years that the country desperately needed entertainment to divert itself from the ravages of the economy. The show grew, and eventually, a second Willard show, headed by Tommy Willard, was also touring the South. By the mid-1930s, the Willard brothers had one of the largest assemblages of magic in the world, with 2 tents, 17 trucks, and enough props to give 6 completely different 2-hour shows. But tragedy struck in 1936 when 76-year-old James Willard died, followed 2 weeks later by the death of Tommy Willard at age 33. Harry Willard was now the sole remaining Willard the Wizard. The family grew with the birth of Madeline in 1938 and Francis in 1940. As the country entered World War II, the Willard show stayed on the road despite gas and tire rationing. In the small towns where they appeared, the Willard show was an eagerly anticipated annual event, and Harry Willard never disappointed his audience. Following the war, the nation and entertainment was changing, but Harry Willard continued to perform magic that had been honed by the family for over 50 years before thousands of audiences. In 1946, a storm destroyed the tent, and a fire consumed the family's house car, but Harry Willard would not be kept down. By the spring of 1947, he was back on the road. 2 more children, Gloria and Patrick, were born in 1947 and 1950, but times were changing, and audiences were now preferring to stay at home and watch television in air-conditioned comfort. Magic, however, was Harry Willard's life, but soon the stress of keeping the show on the road began to wear at the Wizard. In 1952, following an appearance at the International Brotherhood of Magicians Convention in St. Louis, Willard suffered a nervous breakdown and was later diagnosed with tuberculosis. He spent a year recuperating, only to have his life shattered again when his wife Joy died from breast cancer at age 42 in 1953. Friends rallied around the Wizard and realized he was the last performer of his era. He returned to the stage, and while the tent was gone, the Willard magic was still there. Audiences marveled at mysteries from out of the past that were brought to life impeccably by Willard the Wizard, assisted by his daughter Frances. By the 1960s, Harry Willard was recognized as a living legend of the art of magic. He was honored with many awards, including a performing fellowship from the Academy of Magical Arts in Hollywood. Harry Willard died on June 28, 1970. Today, his daughter Frances, together with her husband Glenn Falkenstein, carry on the Willard tradition, keeping the magic of Willard the Wizard alive for a new generation.